Well, Javi Gracia, absolutely right. It is a good moment for Watford. Who'd have thought that after 4 games, they would be one of 3 teams with a 100% record?
Well, no,
Did you predict it?
Well, absolutely not. And I normally am pretty good with my predictions. No,
we'll find out later.
They've started brilliantly. They look fit. They look strong. They've got a very experienced side. The oldest starting lineup in the Premier League that started last week or the week before. And they look to me like a team that have, like I said, have had a very good pre-season. Everybody's pulling in the right direction. And it seems to me like they're just going to ride this wave of really top play. The back four, with Kabasele and Kafka in the centre, it's really solid. Janmat's playing very, very well. Olabas already had 4 assists this season. And with Decore and Capoue in the midfield, both of them are capable of scoring goals and doing well. But they're holding and they're giving a really good protection. And then Will Hughes and Pereira, and Troy Deeney and Grant, all of the team are pulling in the right direction. And while they're in this moment, like he said, a very good moment, the confidence in them, especially at Vicarage Road, is with Man United going, they should be confident.
I was up there yesterday for a big piece we're doing ahead of the game and talking to a lot of people around the club. And a few things that kind of stand out, I suppose, as well. This is the first time since, Watford have become renowned as a club, basically, that every summer they change everything.
Yeah.
And they've almost made a kind of a stability out of instability. Mm-hmm. But this is the first summer since 2013 where they've had the same manager that ended the last season, start the next season. So already he's had that kind of
that continuity.
The extra time to bed into a proper use of pre-season. And also, to add to that, the only signing that's actually starting regularly is Foster. And he hasn't made a single change to a starting 11 yet this season. I think they're really benefiting from that cohesion. Everyone talks about there's a cohesion to the team. Decore, I mentioned it yesterday, they all know their roles. And from that, I think this is particularly relevant to Saturday's game, because he had a reputation in Spain, Javi Gracia, particularly at Malaga and even at Osasuna, where he was really good at setting traps. Traps was the word used for the big teams. And so I think that, given he has that base offer now, and he can enact those traps, it could be dangerous for United, and not just because of their own form.
It's interesting that you talk about those traps, because on the surface of it, it looks as though, as you were describing, their style of football is pretty classic.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say old-fashioned or basic or anything, but it's your sort of standard 4-4-2, isn't it?
It's effective, yeah.
It reminds me of Atletico Madrid, actually. Just the kind of 4-4-2 where everyone knows their jobs, and those jobs are being hammered out to the max.
Yeah.
And can that so in which case, how does he set those traps within that rigid structure?
Well, I was talking to someone who knew him from Malaga, and basically what he loves is just being able to kind of pick out the weaknesses in these opposition sides and really come. And I wonder what United, because I've heard from a few people now that one real weakness I've spotted with United is the slowness at the base in midfield.
Yes.
So I do wonder, especially given the power Watford have had this season, whether they'll go for that on Saturday.
I think when you watch even just that little passage of play where you watch Deeney and Gray, where they started to press from, and then what happens is that they then have to try and start putting balls into areas like this. Watford are very tight on them, and then once they get the ball, Watford, they bam, they're up there, and then you see Deeney here, you see where Gray is, and then they're in. They're getting the ball, and then you see Hughes coming in. Look at the amount of people they've got coming into the box. Now, these are the kind of things where, like the traps they're setting. So they're letting people have the ball, Kells. The guys are closing them down, and then when they get into areas where they're too tightly marked, then they try to put it in. Then Watford will win the ball, and they win the ball in midfield. Then they've got the quality to be able to, with Hughes and with Pereira and with the Decore and that, they're able to then pass the ball out and attack at pace.
What do you think they should be aiming for this season?
To 40 points. I think that all the teams under the top 4 or 6 should be aiming for that, and then you go from there. It's even when Leicester won the league. All Leicester were doing was aiming for 40 points.
Well, they said that was all they were doing.
Yeah, but of course but when it started and we go like 5, 6, 7 games in, we're all thinking, oh, Leicester, amazing, what a great start. We're thinking the same with Watford, but they all are thinking, first and foremostly, about getting 40 points, and you just take whatever you get after that. If I'm being totally honest, there is no way Watford can do what Leicester done. and it's not just because their players are not good enough, because I'm not saying that out of any stretch of the imagination. It's just that you've got a Manchester City team, you've got a Liverpool team that are not going to, they're not going to like check out like the teams did against in that season with Leicester, with all due respect to Leicester.
With all due respect to Leicester,
all due respect
who
to
are
Leicester.
and were the Premier League champions. But for Watford and for what they're aiming for, 4 games in though, you can reassess, can't you?
I do wonder whether they have a decent chance of 7th place, which itself would be, you know, it should be considered a huge achievement. Although I suppose...
Is it worth it? When you look at what's happened to Burnley...
Well, yeah.
You know, it seems like an unbelievable season what Burnley's had. It's almost like they're being punished for it.
Yeah,
You know, they've already played 10 games where everybody else have played 5. Sean Dyche has come out and he's saying, you know what I mean, about how they're going to try and use this international break to try and get themselves together again. And it could almost derail them and get them dragged into a relegation fight, where last season they were European... the Europa League like contenders to get in there. Where's the benefits for teams like this?
Is that the thing then? Instead, do you basically go, well, aim for kind of consolidation, as you said, or a safety, and then maybe go for a cup, really go full going for a cup?
If I could plan it, if I was a manager and I could plan it, and I don't mean it disrespectfully, in the Europa League, which means I'm probably going to disrespect them. The fact is, Kels, I'd rather win the FA Cup and finish 8th if that's the case. Because, you know, you look at what's happened to teams like Burnley, cannot afford to have a season like that, and then a season where they do get into the Europa League and then they're out of it within the first couple of weeks of the season, but their Premier League form is suffering, and now they've got to try and get that going. It really does. It really does take
to win
a
a
toll.
trophy.
Well, yes, it really does. It really does take a toll on them.
Well, what Watford have to aim for in the very near future is a result against Manchester United. We'll be hearing from Jose Mourinho in just a few minutes' time ahead of that game. Jose Mourinho has been speaking ahead of Manchester United's match against Watford, and as always, or as usual at the moment, it's worth listening to.
You know, speaking about Marcus, I think I can expect that Sunday I'm going to be highly criticized for not to play him tomorrow, because some of the boys are really obsessed with me, and some of them, they have, I think, a problem with some compulsive lies. So I can expect that Sunday, some of them, they will wake up in the morning, as always the first thing they think that comes to their minds is Jose Mourinho. So I can imagine that that Sunday I'm going to be criticized by Marcus not to play. But it's not my fault. He is suspended, so probably you should remind them that he's suspended and Sunday he cannot play. If you don't mind to lose a couple of minutes with me, I'm going to do something not for you but for the United fans, and because I think I owe myself to the United fans, and for them, I'm going to spend 2 minutes with you. On the season 16-17, Marcus Rashford played 32 Premier League matches, 11 Europa League matches, including the final, 3 FA Cup matches, 6 League Cup matches, including the final, and the Community Shield. He had 53 appearances, but if you want to take to the minutes of play, he played 3,068 minutes, and if you want to divide that by 90 minutes of the matches, he played 34.2 matches of 90 minutes on the 16-17. On the 17-18, he played 35 matches in the Premier League, 8 in the Champions League, 5 in the FA Cup, including the final, 3 League Cup matches, and the European Super Cup final. He played a total of 52 matches with 2,676 minutes. If you divide that by 90, gives 29.7 matches. So with me, in 2 seasons, he had 105 appearances, 5,744 minutes, 63.7 matches of 90 minutes, including 5 finals. So the people that is speaking and is speaking about these minutes, I think they are a bit confused. Marcus Rashford is not Dominic Solanke, is not Ruben Loftus-Cheek, is not Dominic Calvert-Lewin, is Marcus Rashford, Manchester United player, with an incredible number of appearances and an incredible number of minutes played at the highest level. But the most important thing of all is that the kid is good kid, the kid is good player, he knows what Manchester United did for him, starting in the academy, then Mr. Van Gaal's support, then my support and the club support and the new contract and the new shirt and being selected for every single match. Since I am here, Marcus Rashford was selected for every single match. He was never one day out of selection because of my decision, or because he was injured, or like in this case because he is suspended. He was never out of a selection. So he knows, and that's the most important thing. But again, media is very important, and I think is very important. The Manchester United supporters, they know the truth. That's why I'm going so specific about his numbers.
Very specific, incredibly specific. I hope everyone was taking notes.
And yet we put a spin on it still.
On Marcus Rashford. Well, in what way do you think he put spin on it?
Well, I suppose ultimately, first of all, I suppose Rashford was an established Manchester United striker before Mourinho came. So even the comparison to Solanke and Loftus-Cheek is a bit mischievous in that way. And I think, as we're talking off air, and as Jamie Carragher said, basically, is that he's not going to be the principal striker at the club, and that's probably what he needs at this point in his career. Yeah. Because as you yourself say, Kelly, they've got Lukaku.
They have Romelu Lukaku, and that's the player that he would maybe have to displace if he wanted to play more regularly. Jose Mourinho talked about the number of minutes that he'd played, saying that equates to 70-odd. I don't remember all the numbers. Saying the 70-odd games that equates to. Is the point not that they aren't full games necessarily, and they're not back-to-back games? They're
not continuous for him to continue to learn and continue to progress. Like when he came on the scene, we thought that we've unearthed another Michael Owen in the way he hit the form. But what Michael Owen had over him was games and continuous games. 18 at the time, he's playing for England, scoring at World Cups, and he continued to play. And when Marcus Rashford came on the scene, he done the same. He scored in every competition. He looked sharp, he looked straight, he looked brilliant. His movement was great up front, and then for some reason he's been displaced. Like you said, they brought in.
Should he start ahead of? If it's ahead of his choice between him and Lukaku, is it necessarily a choice between him and Lukaku? And two, if it is, should he start?
I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to be very difficult for a youth team product to start in front of an £80 million player, Kels. It's not going to happen. Because people upstairs are going to say, why have we spent £80 million on a player and you're playing someone from the youth team? So he can say all that stuff about the numbers, and the numbers are there for people to see, but take what you want from it. But the fact is, Miggy, is that it still doesn't change the fact that Marcus Rashford needs to be playing regularly. Back to back. That's what he needs.
What's interesting here is that Jose Mourinho seems to have taken it as personal criticism, as opposed to advice to Marcus Rashford about not being able to get into first team because he has Romelu Lukaku in front of him.
I feel, I suppose, that's a little bit of a theme of the season, and maybe Mourinho's entire time at Manchester United, possibly because of what happened at Chelsea, but he's taken everything very personally now, and everything feels he's being attacked in some way, rather than this being, I suppose, a general comment about...
I think he'd done those stats himself.
I was wondering that. Did he go on Wikipedia,
Yeah. It just seems like, for me, for a manager of his stature and status to be coming out with that sort of stuff, surely he's got more important things to be doing. But, he's getting very petty.
Someone who knows Mourinho said to me that one massive difference between now and, I'd say, a decade ago when he was in his pomp, whereas Denny used to be so in command. He didn't really care what people said about him because, well, the results speak for themselves. And this is the major problem.
Yeah.
The results don't speak for themselves anymore.
We'll see what you think the result is going to be in Manchester United's game against Watford very shortly. In the meantime, let's hear from some other slightly less eventful press conferences.
I look at Burnley as a very good team, a manager that came some years ago and had made fantastic things. I think the best classification since 1774. So that says a lot about the work that's been done in Burnley.
Possibly another tight game. I think the games against Leicester have always been, in my opinion, entertaining games, tight games. Two good teams going against each other. Tactically, really interesting to play Leicester. I do think they've changed under Claude Puel. I think they very much a counter-attack team traditionally the last few years. I think now they're more possession-based with the counter-attack threat still added in there, so it makes them a dangerous team to play against. I respect Claude and the job that he's done there, and I respect their players. I think they've got a very good team.
We have to make sure that we avoid Palace the areas which they love to be, and that we use the areas where they maybe we can cause them some problems, and this is exactly where we prepared ourselves for in the last days, and hopefully we can bring it on the grass on Saturday.
I don't know if it's gone quickly as such. I mean, I suppose it has, but I've enjoyed it. There's no doubt about that. It's been great to be back on the grass every day, or every day but one during the week, and working with a group of players on a daily basis. You get to know them so much better. You get a chance to work on your ideas and your principles so much more. So after a sort of 4-year, 5-year absence from working day to day, it's been great to be back.
You know, we've got some good players, really. We've earned the right to play in the Premier League against your Chelseas of this world, and you know, I can see already this since the first 2 or 3 games where we as manager and coaches had to change as well, you know, from what we were doing last year all the time, to reassess how we were going to get points in games and how we could change to score goals, etc. You know.
My feeling is that now we are not a very solid team in the defensive phase, of course. And so I think that we need to improve, and we can improve. My feeling during the trainings is that this team can improve.
So having seen what everybody's got to say, let's see what you think is going to happen in this weekend's fixtures, starting with Tottenham. You think you're going to get beaten 3-1 at home by Liverpool?
Yeah, I do.
That's an explosive start to the weekend.
I know, because I think that Lloris not playing is going to have something to do with it as well. And I've given him a goal because I think Son might nick something. But I just feel Liverpool just get, in the ascendancy right now.
1-1 draw between Bournemouth and Leicester?
Yeah. I feel
yes, I've gone for that. Yes, that is correct. You've read off the graphic. Chelsea 3-0 winners over Cardiff. Huddersfield to get beaten again by Crystal Palace this time round.
Yes.
OK, if there's any stage you'd like to add anything, then just chip in. Manchester City 4-1 winners over Fulham. We talked about the way that Fulham could potentially take the game to Manchester City.
And I'm going on that they may go for it because that's the way they play. Why would they change? And they're going to see if they can nick something out. I think that if they do, it's going to be a big mistake, and Man City are going to run away with it.
Rafa Benitez didn't win you round.
He didn't, but I'm just doing that because that's what I want. I think they're going to cause us problems because he will be all over Arsenal and their weaknesses. You
said that Watford would cause Manchester United problems, or could cause Manchester United problems, but you still think United will take all 3 points?
I think they're going to do it. I think that it was very... the way they played against Burnley was encouraging. And if they do that, then I think that they probably will they can beat Watford.
And a 3-1 win for Wolves?
Yeah, I just feel that Wolves against Burnley, a Burnley side are still reeling. I know that Sean Dyche wanted them to have some rest because they'd played 10 games, and I feel that might be too much for them. Wolves, it's the kind of game that Wolves at home should cause them problems.
It's a big result for an Everton side that have got, what, 12 players out for this game against West Ham. Is that down to West Ham?
I think it is down to West Ham, and I think we have to really look at if they cannot beat Everton in this, with the predicament Everton find themselves in, then I think that they're going to struggle.
Even again, I mean, they haven't got a single point yet. So.
Yeah.
No, not one at all. And then on to Monday night, what have you gone for? A 2-1 win for Southampton against Brighton. Yeah,
I feel that Southampton, Danny Ings, it seems to have kicked in. It seems to be working. They are a team that create chances, to be honest, Southampton, but they weren't taking them. But now they've got Danny Ings. I think they might nick it.
Miguel, final thoughts on the big game of the weekend, the first one of the weekend, Spurs-Liverpool?
I won't go too far off 3-1 Liverpool, I think.
Thanks, Miggy.
So I think
Rick, you two have been chatting before we came on.
No, we haven't.
Miguel, thank you very much for coming in to join us here on Premier League today. Righty and I will be back at the same time next week to build up to a full programme of Premier League fixtures. But this weekend, the Premier League is back. As we said, it starts with Spurs against Liverpool. That's the Saturday lunchtime kickoff, but then a whole host of fixtures for you after that. We'll see you again next week. For now, though, bye-bye.